Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, a closer look at a recent Arizona trade delegation's visit to Mexico amid on-again, off-again U.S. tariff policy. Also tonight, a new program looks to address the trade-offs of projected growth in Arizona. And a former corrections officer works to rehabilitate inmates through a book club. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. A delegation of Arizona leaders led by Governor Katie Hobbs recently traveled to Mexico to meet with officials and business leaders from the state's top trading partner. The trip to Mexico City came amid international tensions over U.S. tariff policies and a month before key meetings regarding an extension to the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. Todd Sanders is the president and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, and he was on that trip. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Buenas tardes. It's good to be here.
All right. So this was basically, it's a trade delegation. It's a trade delegation to Mexico, but Mexico City this time, not Sonora. What's going on with that?
Well, I think what's interesting is that I think this is the governor's sixth trip to Mexico. You know, not just Mexico City. I think she's been very intentional about that relationship. A lot of work with our neighboring state, Sonora, Governor Durazo. But certainly there's a lot of importance at the federal level, especially with what's happening at the border for us and trade. So it made sense to do that delegation down to Mexico City.
Purpose of the trip basically to smooth out relations, make sure keep things even keel?
Well, I think three-pronged. First of all, we've got a long relationship with Mexico. For instance, the Arizona-Mexico Commission's just celebrated 66 years. So continuing that relationship, that discussion, it's one thing to say we're friends, it's another thing to show up. The other part was to open up some opportunities for Arizona businesses in Mexico, but to also talk to Mexican businesses about opportunities in Arizona. So really a three-pronged type of reason for the trip.
Which sectors were focused on in both directions?
Well, I think we had folks from sort of all sectors. We had obviously some business organizations, but we also had the universities. We had a lot of manufacturing that was represented. And for instance, the Phoenix Suns were there. So it was a nice broad delegation. Yeah, and it made a lot of sense. The Suns have played down there before. We'd love to see that happen again.
The semiconductor industry, I would imagine, would have been top of mind for a lot of folks. Top of mind for them, top of mind for your group.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've done a number of these, and I will say the fact that we're all of a sudden this center of gravity in the country, you could even say in the world now, has changed the way that we're perceived in Mexico City. Before, I think you'd see that they were glad we were there. We were important trading partners, but certainly kind of all roads led to Texas. Now, all of a sudden, Arizona's front and center thanks to this boom in semiconductors. Matter of fact, we had 5 states that actually came to us and to the Secretary of the Economy to talk about how we might partner with them on advanced manufacturing. So a really interesting change in the dynamics for Arizona.
Have you seen that kind of interest from states other than Sonora in previous visits? Because it just seems like Sonora is obviously the one you focus on, but you're telling me the entire country, they were there.
It's agreed. Fascinating. Now, obviously, Sonora, really, our neighbor to the south, really important. It's going to remain important, but yeah, interesting to see all of these other states taking an interest in Arizona and looking for ways to partner with our state. It really bodes well. I think it speaks to the intentionality of our economic strategy that's been going on for 20 plus years.
What about border security? Was it mentioned? Was it touched on?
For me personally, I know the governor had some discussions with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm sure that was touched on. For us, it was really about the trade relationship, strengthening that, and then opportunities for Arizona companies.
Things, obviously, I mean, water conservation, these sorts of things have to be an issue in the long run. I don't know if they're an issue in a trade delegation, but still in all, those things brought up, concerns?
Water is always an issue. Certainly when you think about our friends in Sonora, they're always thinking about water like we are. I think we've got a reputation as a state that really understands water and knows how to manage that. It is interesting in Mexico City, that is something that they're now having to pay attention to. So I think they're sort of learning from us. The energy topic also came up. We're looking at energy right now. They're thinking about energy as well, given all of the new demands with AI and what that requires from an energy perspective. So that's also entered into the dynamic. So really interesting.
The mood of the meetings, especially compared to previous years, previous administrations, if you will, What was it? Because I know how it looks from up here, and it looks like there's chaos. What did you feel down there when talking to these folks?
For one thing, like I said, we've done so much work with Mexico, with Sonora, that I think we're seen as friends coming in to having a conversation. I will say, as far as trade's concerned, tariffs, all of that, cautious optimism. They feel like, as of right now, they've managed sort of the trade wars, the global trade paradigm pretty well, and I think they've got confidence in partners like Arizona. So overall, I think it was cautious optimism.
Okay, but tariffs were discussed. Tariffs were an issue.
Well, I mean, I think the thing about tariffs is, remember that under the USMCA and NAFTA 2.0, most of those things aren't covered. I think what they're thinking about is the review that's going to be happening. It's in process now. It'll be happening next year. And so what does that look like? And how does that look like from a three-country perspective?
What does that look like? Because as you mentioned, this is happening next year. Yeah. And I mean, my goodness gracious, things were flying around the last time this agreement happened. It's even more so now. What are you thinking? What are you seeing?
Well, it's changing by the hour, as we know,
yes.
Globally. But what I'm understanding at this point, there's a comment period. I know the governor has been really intentional about understanding the impact of the USMCA to Arizona companies and making sure that we're going to provide a package to the feds to look at, to understand how this is impacting Arizona and what the benefits are for Arizona from an economic perspective. A lot can happen. If they decide to make some minor adjustments and move forward, then it can be renewed for 16 years. If they don't, if there are bigger amendments, or if they can't agree, then it resets, and there's a 10-year period where they have to try and work it out. But we're hopeful that we can not get into this 10-year time frame and reset again. Make some improvements. You can always make improvements from NAFTA 1.0 to 2.0. I think we saw some really good improvements. So we're hopeful that can happen.
And I can see it now, because there are people watching this and they're saying, what difference does it make if the Trump administration decides to rescind trade agreements to the extent, decides to say no more, reduce plane flights out of Mexico to Arizona and to the U.S. This can happen on a daily basis, Todd. Where's the confidence that something like this is going to stick?
Well, and I think that was part of what both sides heard, is that for the economics to work, you need to have certainty and you need to have stability from both sides. And I think that is something that's being broadcast, I think, to both governments, that regardless of what's happening, in order to make this work, number one trade partner not only for Arizona but for the country is Mexico. So let's make sure that we've got some stability and predictability.
Cautious optimism?
Cautious optimism.
All right, we'll leave it with that. Todd, good to see you. Always a pleasure.
You as well. Thank you.
Arizona PBS and the Heard Museum are hosting a sneak peek event for the highly anticipated Ken Burns documentary, The American Revolution. Join us at the museum for America at 2:50 Indigenous Voices on the evening of Wednesday, November 12th. See selections from the film, as well as the original Arizona PBS digital series, What Happened in AZ. Scan the QR code on the screen to register, or go to azpbs.org/America250 and learn more.
I love working at Arizona PBS for many reasons.
The people. I'm fortunate to work with some really talented individuals.
I was shocked, like I was going to work for the place that produced Sesame Street.
I love that we have such a strong community impact.
Because I get to tell the stories of Arizona.
Really, there's no job more fulfilling than using your skills and talents and abilities to enrich your communities.
The creativity and the passion of my colleagues.
It's just a great place, and I love being here.
A new initiative looks to address rapid growth in Arizona and how that growth will impact things like water, power, and land availability over the next 15 to 20 years. To learn more, we welcome Mark Stapp, Director of ASU's Masters in Real Estate Development, and economist Jim Rounds of Rounds Consulting Group. Good to see you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Mark, we'll start with you. This initiative, what's this all about? Is it basically, we're going to grow, we better figure out how to do it right?
Yeah, I think to some degree that's what it is, Ted. We realize the fact that we are having significant economic opportunity, and the development of the semiconductor industry, we were just talking about these things, are great, right? We're projected to grow by about 1 million people in the next 10 years. We are facing a number of constraints to our growth that we've never had to face before. And they're causing us to, I think we're going to have to begin making some trade-offs, choices about not if we're going to grow, but how we're going to grow, what that might look like.
Jim, some of those constraints, what are you talking about here?
Yeah, so when Mark called about an event that he was going to have, and he was talking about, let's look at these things, I was excited because we already started looking at a couple of specific ones. And so we've been doing a little bit of research for the Board of Regents related to the fact that our long-term forecast for economic growth, job growth in the state isn't going to be met with the current production of trained workers plus what we bring in. So we need to step it up. And the difference between that optimistic forecast and the reality is going to equate to tens of billions of dollars in tax revenues over a longer period of time. So that's one of them. Energy is also a major issue where we're not going to be able to hit our growth projections unless we step up and we start catching up there. So the fact that Mark wanted to look at a lot of different things and really bring attention to the fact that we need to manage growth longer term instead of just short term, it was very intriguing, and I was interested in participating.
When you talk about power, I mean, we've had people on the program talk about nuclear energy needs to be looked at again, maybe even smaller reactors, more localized reactors, something that no one had ever thought of. Is this what you're talking about here? Those kinds of things that might be needed in the future?
Yeah, that is part of it, Ted. So I'm going to put this in context, right? 1 million people. The city of Tucson's about 1 million people. Tulsa, Oklahoma is about 1 million people. So what we're saying in the next 10 years, we've got to take the entire city of Tucson and put it here. We have had a growth pattern that has been free to expand relatively easily without a lot of constraints. We are bumping up against those. We talk about water a lot. Power's one of them. The available land that is developable is one of them. And it's beginning to push us inward. But we don't have development policies, and we don't have a development pattern that is used to that kind of constrained development. So the question is, how are we going to handle this?
How are we going to handle this?
Well, I think we go through each of these items and we find a solution. So available land.
Yes.
Ourselves and some others are looking at an overhaul of the state land department so that they can be properly funded and they can respond more quickly to market demand. Related to energy, there's going to be some specific recommendations. Related to the workforce, we're going to have to reinvest. But the great thing is, and we've talked about positive ROI before on your show, is that most of these things can be done without a massive cost increase to taxpayers. In fact, in many cases, the state taxpayers make money from the investment. They don't lose money. So if we do it right and we think long enough ahead of time, then it'll be done, because if you get behind on these things, it costs too much to catch up.
I think land availability kind of raises some eyebrows too, because people don't want to see, the push outward. They don't want to see the desert spoiled and these sorts of things. And some land, I would think, would be so difficult to get water and power to that it would not return much on that particular investment. How do you? Is there enough available land for Tulsa to move to Arizona?
And if you take the development pattern that we've historically had, which was relatively low density, I mean, like 70% of the land is designated for single-family residential development, detached. I don't think we can accommodate the growth that's projected by maintaining that development pattern. Because we know that some of the land doesn't have the water. You're not going to be able to feasibly get power to it. It becomes disconnected from the workforce. The workforce is changing, right? What that workforce needs and wants in order to be a productive workforce is changing. And it's not necessarily the same location, or type of development that they want. There's a number of these factors.
Yeah, talk more about the workforce. I know this is a big deal with you as far as an available workforce, people that are ready and trained, ready to go as far as high-tech industries and these sorts of things. What do we need to do? Are we on the right trajectory here, or do we need to really kind of pull up the bootstraps and get this done?
Well, related to projects like TSMC that are just massive, community colleges, universities, everybody stepped up and started working towards that. But the state's much bigger than a single business, even one as big as TSMC. And so we have demands across the board. And it's not just we need more bachelor's degrees or we need more technical degrees. That's the debate that most people have. We need that high school person to graduate that otherwise wouldn't. We need the high school graduate to maybe get an advanced degree. We need everybody to do better. We need to take advantage of every opportunity we can to have the quality workforce to maintain the current momentum, because I don't think people realize how much our economic momentum has shifted just since the COVID recession, and it shifted massively even before that, going back to post-Great Recession.
And you need specialized schools for specialized talents and specialized skills.
That's right, and we're probably going to have to see a little bit of reform at the universities. We're going to have to see a change in the way the different workforce groups work together. I can name 10 different workforce groups that might be working on the exact same thing. We have to collaborate a little bit more. And the good thing is that all this stuff is interrelated, which makes it seem more complicated. But the fact that it's interrelated means that there's a story to be told, and there is a solution. We just have to get policymakers and the other participants to want to coordinate.
How much, though, Mark, does that story change with water? Because if the drought continues in similar patterns, if the next compact, Colorado River Water Compact, goes completely sideways as far as Arizona is concerned, does that change the narrative?
Well, listen, it's the narrative today, right? So it's not going to change it. The question is, we're not quite sure what the ultimate solution is yet. It's a known known, and it's a known known that has a variety of potential solutions. The thing that we do know is that not all of the land that we look at and think that could be developed will be developable. And that changes patterns, right? It changes patterns in a number of different ways. We've got to get all of this in a regional context to work together. So we're matching where people live, where they work, employment opportunities, quality of life. Part of this affects substantially attainability and affordability of housing. The more you constrain and the less we have that development pattern we're so used to, the harder it is to have affordable housing. That affects the employment sector significantly.
Last question here. Running out of time, but I want to get this last question in because you referred to it. Is there the political will to even look at something like this initiative?
There will be when the politicians see the extent that we could lose economic growth if we don't take action versus the gain that we'll have with being proactive. I think sometimes you have to show people the numbers, the extra jobs, the extra tax revenues that then pay for these things. I think we have to do a little bit more math and explain things in more detail.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about, is creating a context for this dialogue.
All right, Mark Stapp, Jim Rounds, a couple of economists here talking about the future of Arizona, and it's coming, and it's going pretty fast. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, details of the trade truce that President Trump reached with China's Xi Jinping. That's coming up at 6 on Arizona PBS.
A former Arizona corrections officer is looking to use the power of books to spark change inside state and federal prisons. The goal is to use book clubs to help guide inmates into making better choices and leading more productive lives. Joining us now is the woman behind this project, Christine Calabrese, founder of the Embossed Book Club. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the Embossed Book Club. First of all, why that name?
Embossed. When you emboss something, you put a stamp on it and it stands out. It's a raised status, and that's how I wanted my inmates to look at it.
So talk to us about how you got started with this idea of inmates belonging to a book club and what just assigned reading. How did that go?
So I've always been a book lover. I was a literature major, and books have really impacted my life, specific authors, and I just thought one day, what would happen to these men and women if they were exposed to the same books that I had the opportunity to be exposed to?
And you started with Viktor Frankl's book? You started with that book?
Yes.
Talk to us. I mean, goodness gracious, man, Search for Meaning. That's pretty heavy stuff for behind bars.
And it was a big decision too. Like, what's your first book going to be? So it had to be something impactful. It had to be something relevant. It had to be the one. And I chose this book because Viktor Frankl, as you may know, survived 4 different concentration camps. So it's really a story about resilience and finding your purpose. And when you find that purpose, it pulls you through adversity.
What kind of reaction did you get from your book club members?
It was phenomenal.
Interesting.
It was phenomenal. The men were approaching me on the yard, anxious to talk about it.
And what did they say about it?
It really resonated with them, the whole comparison between being incarcerated and being in a concentration camp. And it was really interesting to hear them talk about how those people in the concentration camp were there suffering, but not by their own doing, where my men were admitting, we're here because of what we did.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
When you started this book club, did you get pushback from officials? Did you get pushback from peers? Did people say, what are you doing here?
It was lukewarm. It was lukewarm at first, but thank God for my Deputy Warden Aguirre. He told me, he said, anything that's going to make this yard better, do it.
And you made the yard better. Not only that, but you got a whole bunch of folks interested in books. The book club exploded, huh?
We grew from 1 to 3, and the demand, I couldn't keep up with it.
3 groups of what? How many? How many were in each group?
On average, about 7.
Okay. Met several times a week?
1 time a week.
1 time a week. Okay. How did you figure out which books would work? Obviously, Viktor Frankl, that's got meaning. You were searching for meaning. You found it right there with that book. But what other books did you choose, and why?
Oh, we chose 12 books. I chose 12 books because it was going to be a 12-month program. That was the objective, to read 1 book a month for 12 months. So I just wanted to hit on all the major topics, like purpose, like, emotional intelligence, just down the line.
I noticed that The Alchemist is in here as one of the books, huh?
Yes.
Why'd you pick that one?
That has a spiritual twist to it, and this book is absolutely magical. And I have to say, this is the favorite.
It's the favorite of the
absolutely.
Book club members. Did they ever come to you and say, I think we should do X, Y, or Z?
Yes, and that's why the 12th book is Inmate's Choice.
Is it really?
It is.
Very cool. This went so well that you wound up, resigning your job and starting the book club outside the bars?
I did. I met with our director, and I told him, I said, I believe this should be a program throughout the state. And they weren't sure how to get the books. So I said, I'll start a nonprofit, I'll get the books. And he said, well, you can't run a nonprofit for the state and work for the state at the same time. I said, I'll quit my job.
And how long ago was that?
That was about 4 months ago.
Wow, how's it going?
It's slowly picking up steam.
All right. So again, it's the Embossed Book Club, and the idea is to get this into state and federal prisons around the country.
Yes.
And it's picking up a little bit of steam.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Word's getting out. People are supporting. People are talking about it. Donations are coming in.
Well, congratulations on this. It just seems like it's a real, not only is it a great thing, but to get the buy-in from the inmates, from the book club members, to get that buy-in is huge, and it sounds like it's working for you. Thank you so much for joining and sharing the story. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.